Humanity was classified as minor threat. In the vast archives of the Galactic Strategic Threat Registry, billions of civilizations had been carefully categorized. Some species were feared. Some were respected. Some were simply ignored. But very few were laughed at. Humanity was one of them. Earth's file sat near the bottom of the registry under a small, unimpressive classification. Threat level, minor. Not harmless. Just insignificant. The report described humans as a volatile, emotionally unstable species that spent most of its time fighting itself. Their political systems were chaotic, their technology inconsistent, and their planet was plagued by environmental problems and endless internal conflict. To the ancient empires of the galaxy, humanity looked like a civilization that probably wouldn't survive long enough to matter. The Council archivist who finalized the classification even left a note in the margin. Monitor casually. Low probability of interstellar relevance. That single sentence would later become one of the most infamous miscalculations in galactic history. But at the time, no one cared. Because at that exact moment, an alien warlord had just discovered Earth. Commander Zenther of the Vrax Dominion leaned back in his command throne, staring at the holographic image of the blue planet rotating slowly before him. It looked peaceful. Soft clouds drifted across blue oceans. Continents glowed beneath golden sunlight. 8 billion humans lived there. 8 billion future slaves. The Dominion specialized in conquering young civilizations just as they reached the edge of space. Primitive species rarely had the technology or unity to defend themselves. And Earth looked particularly easy. No interstellar navy. No planetary defense grid. No unified government. Just scattered militaries and crude nuclear weapons. Zenther's long reptilian claws tapped the arm of his throne. "Confirm threat classification," he ordered. An officer responded instantly. "Galactic Registry lists the species as minor threat, Commander." A low, satisfied growl escaped Zenther's throat. "Perfect." The officers around him hissed in amusement. Minor threat species rarely fought back effectively. They panicked. They surrendered. They died. "Prepare the invasion fleet," Zenther said. 32 Dominion warships powered up around his flagship. To the ancient Dominion Empire, this was barely a military operation. It was a harvest. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity remained blissfully unaware that an alien fleet was already accelerating toward their solar system. Life continued normally. People argued on television. Politicians blamed each other for economic problems. Nations competed over territory and resources. The species was divided in 1,000 different ways. Religion, language, culture, ideology. Humans could barely agree on lunch, let alone planetary defense. Which is why the moment the alien fleet appeared beyond the moon shocked the entire planet into stunned silence. Astronomers were the first to notice. 32 massive objects dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Not asteroids. Not satellites. Warships. Within minutes, every observatory on Earth was screaming alert. Within an hour, every government on the planet knew. And within 2 hours, the news had leaked. Humanity stared at their screens in disbelief. The universe was not empty. And it had come knocking. The message arrived shortly afterward. It appeared on every satellite, every military channel, every broadcast frequency on Earth simultaneously. A deep alien voice echoed through the translation systems. "Attention, inhabitants of planet Earth. This system is now under the authority of the Vrax Dominion." The message paused long enough for the words to sink in. "You will surrender your planetary infrastructure and population for labor allocation. Compliance ensures survival. Resistance ensures extinction." The transmission ended. No negotiation. No diplomacy. Just a declaration. Panic exploded across the planet. World leaders rushed into emergency meetings. Military forces scrambled to full alert. Fighter jets filled the skies over major cities. Submarines slipped beneath the oceans carrying nuclear weapons. and every intelligence agency on Earth tried desperately to answer one question. What did the aliens want? The answer arrived quickly. Everything. Inside the Dominion flagship, Commander Zenther watched Earth's chaotic response with quiet amusement. Humans were predictable. Primitive species always reacted the same way when confronted by superior power. Fear. Confusion. Desperation. His communications officer spoke. Commander, the planet has not responded to our surrender demand. Zenther shrugged. They will. Deploy the first wave. Dozens of smaller invasion vessels detached from the warships and began descending toward Earth's atmosphere. Their mission was simple. Establish control. Destroy resistance. Capture labor. Standard Dominion procedure. But before the drop ships could reach the surface, a signal suddenly arrived from Earth. An official transmission. Zenther smiled. Ah. Finally. Play it. The holographic image of a human appeared. An older man in a military uniform. Gray hair. Hard eyes. The kind of face that had seen too many wars. Identify yourself, Zenther demanded. The human looked directly at the alien commander. General Marcus Hale, he said calmly. United Earth Defense. Zenther chuckled. United? Yes. The alien tilted his head slightly. That seems unlikely. The general shrugged. You'd be surprised what happens when someone threatens to enslave the entire planet. A brief silence passed between them. Then Zenther leaned forward. Have you contacted me to surrender? General Hale smiled faintly. No. The alien commander's eyes narrowed. Then why are you here? The general exhaled slowly. Professional courtesy. Courtesy? Yes. Hale leaned closer to the camera. If you turn your fleet around right now, leave our system, and never come back, we might forget this conversation ever happened. For a moment the Dominion bridge was completely silent. Then the alien officers erupted into laughter. Zenther's tail slammed against the floor. You threaten the Dominion with 32 warships above your planet? General Hale shrugged. I warned you. Human, Zenther said coldly, your species has been officially classified as a minor threat. Hale nodded slowly. Yeah. I saw that. The general reached off screen and lit a cigarette. You should probably update that file. Zenther bared his fangs. Begin planetary assault. The communication channel cut instantly. Moments later the Dominion fleet opened fire. Orbital cannons slammed into Earth's upper atmosphere. Several military satellites vanished in brilliant explosions. Drop ships roared toward the surface. Cities across the planet watched streaks of alien fire tear through the sky. Humanity had officially entered its first interstellar war. On the Dominion flagship, Zenther watched the operation unfold with bored satisfaction. Victory would take hours at most. But then something unexpected happened. Thousands of objects suddenly launched from Earth's surface. Missiles. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. Then tens of thousands. Zenther frowned. Primitive nuclear weapons. The tactical officer zoomed in. No, Commander. These are different. The missiles continued climbing past the Dominion fleet. They weren't targeting the ships. They were heading deeper into space. Toward the asteroid belt. Zenther blinked. Why? Seconds later, the first nuclear detonation lit the darkness. Then another. Then another. Within minutes the entire asteroid belt erupted in a chain of violent explosions. Millions of shattered rocks accelerated outward like a cosmic shotgun blast. Straight toward the Dominion fleet. The tactical officer whispered in horror. Commander! They turned the asteroid belt into a weapon. Zenther's eyes widened. Impossible. The first relativistic rock slammed into a Dominion cruiser. The ship disintegrated instantly. Another asteroid tore through a destroyer like paper. Within seconds the fleet was engulfed in a storm of high-velocity debris. Warships exploded across the void. Hull plating ripped apart. Engines detonated. The Dominion fleet was being shredded by physics itself. Zenther screamed. All ships evasive. The rest of his sentence vanished as a mountain-sized asteroid punched straight through the flagship. Far below on Earth, General Hale quietly watched the battle report stream across his screen. A young officer stared at the numbers in disbelief. "Sir, we just destroyed their entire fleet." Hale took a slow drag from his cigarette. "No." Smoke drifted toward the ceiling. "That was just the opening move." The officer looked confused. "Opening move?" Hale nodded toward the stars. "Kid, any civilization that shows up with slave ships doesn't travel alone." High above the planet, the last fragments of the Dominion fleet burned through Earth's atmosphere. And across the galaxy, powerful empires began receiving a terrifying update. Threat classification change requested. Species, human. Previous status, minor threat. New recommendation, unknown. Possibly catastrophic. The galaxy learns a terrifying lesson. When the last Dominion warship broke apart above Earth's atmosphere, the night sky burned like a funeral pyre. Thousands of glowing fragments streaked across the heavens. Humans watched from rooftops, deserts, oceans, and cities as the debris of an alien fleet fell like meteor showers. To many people, it looked beautiful. To the Galactic Council, it looked like a disaster. Because the moment the first Dominion cruiser exploded, hundreds of long-range sensors across nearby star systems detected it. And when the second, third, and fourth ships vanished in violent bursts of energy, the galaxy began asking questions. Questions that quickly turned into panic. Inside the enormous circular chamber of the Galactic Council, the emergency meeting had already begun. Dozens of alien representatives argued loudly across the vast hall. Some were ancient species that had ruled star systems for thousands of years. Others were younger civilizations still learning the complicated politics of the galaxy. But none of them expected the report they were about to hear. The hologram of Observer Clythar flickered into existence at the center of the chamber. His insectoid form looked noticeably shaken. A council elder spoke first. "Observer Clythar, your transmission claims a pre-spacefaring species destroyed a Dominion fleet." "That is correct. Please clarify how such a thing is possible." Clythar hesitated. "By weaponizing their asteroid belt." Silence filled the chamber. Then the arguments started. "That is absurd. Impossible. Primitive species lack the coordination for such tactics." Clythar raised one trembling limb. "They did not coordinate slowly. They did it in 3 hours." The chamber fell quiet again. 3 hours. That wasn't preparation. That was improvisation. While the council argued, Earth was preparing for something far worse. General Marcus Hale stood in a dim command center beneath a mountain in Colorado. Around him, dozens of officers monitored satellite feeds and deep space sensors. The room smelled faintly of stale coffee and burning electronics. One of the analysts spoke nervously. "Sir, long-range detection just confirmed something." Hale didn't look up. "Let me guess. More aliens." "Yes, sir." "How many?" The analyst swallowed. "Unknown, but the signal suggests a much larger fleet." Hale nodded slowly. "That didn't take long." A younger officer looked confused. "Sir, we just destroyed 32 warships." "Yeah. So why would they come back?" Hale leaned back in his chair. "Because we embarrassed them." The officer frowned. "Is that really enough reason for an interstellar war?" Hale gave him a tired look. "Kid, humans have started wars over soccer games. Trust me. This is personal now." The truth was already spreading across the Dominion Empire. The death of Commander Zenther had reached the throne world of Rax only hours earlier. The Emperor listened to the report without speaking. 32 warships destroyed. By a species classified as minor. By rocks. When the messenger finished speaking, the enormous reptilian ruler slowly leaned forward. "What exactly did they do?" The officer hesitated. "They detonated nuclear devices throughout their asteroid belt, Your Majesty. And The explosions accelerated millions of debris fragments into our fleet. The Emperor blinked slowly. They turned their solar system into a weapon. Yes. Silence filled the massive throne room. Then the Emperor spoke quietly. Prepare the Dominion War Armada. The officers stiffened. That fleet had not been deployed in centuries. Your Majesty, that may be unnecessary. The humans possess inferior technology. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Inferior technology does not destroy fleets. Inferior species do not improvise planetary-scale weapons. He stood slowly. This civilization is dangerous. And I intend to remove it from existence. Back in the solar system, humanity was doing what it always did after a crisis. Arguing. World leaders appeared on television claiming credit for the victory. Some politicians demanded peace negotiations with the aliens. Others demanded a full military alliance. Social media exploded with conspiracy theories. One popular headline read, "Humans 1, Aliens 0. General Hale hated it, because the score wasn't even close to finished. Observer Clythar remained in orbit above Earth, studying the strange species that had just shattered a Dominion fleet. The more he watched them, the more uncomfortable he became. Humans weren't celebrating like most civilizations would after surviving an invasion. They were preparing. Factories ran day and night. Civilian industries rapidly converted to military production. Even their entertainment shifted. War documentaries flooded streaming networks. Historical battles were studied across the planet. It was as if humanity had collectively decided something. Something cold. Something dangerous. They were studying war the way a predator studies prey. Clythar finally sent another urgent message to the Council. Humans do not treat war as tragedy. They treat it as engineering. 3 weeks later, the Dominion War Armada entered the solar system. 300 warships, battleships the size of cities, carrier vessels packed with fighters, planet-cracking weapons, the largest invasion force the sector had seen in 500 years. When the fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near the orbit of Mars, the stars themselves seemed to disappear behind the massive formation. Observer Clythar stared at the sensor data in horror. Earth didn't stand a chance. No species that young could survive that level of firepower. A transmission blasted across every channel again. This time the voice was colder, more controlled. I am Supreme Commander Varix of the Dominion. Your previous attack on Dominion forces has been recorded. Your extinction is now authorized. Cities across Earth watched the message in silence. Children, soldiers, scientists, workers. 8 billion humans listening to their death sentence. Then the communication screen changed. General Marcus Hale appeared again. He looked even more tired than before. But his eyes were sharp. You brought more ships, Hale said calmly. Commander Varix glared at him. You destroyed 32 of ours. Hale shrugged. Fair. The alien commander leaned forward. This time we will not underestimate your species. Hale smiled faintly. That's probably smart. You have one final opportunity to surrender. Yeah, about that. Hale rubbed his temple. We talked it over. And... The general exhaled slowly. We're gonna pass. The alien commander snarled. You are choosing extinction. Hale shook his head. No. He tapped something off-screen. We're choosing round 2. The transmission ended. Moments later, something strange happened. Thousands of small objects began launching from Earth again. Missiles, satellites, drones. But this time they didn't head toward the asteroid belt. They spread across the solar system. Commander Varix frowned. Scan those objects. His officer studied the data. Unknown technology, but they appear harmless. Harmless. Yes, Commander. No weapons detected. Varix snorted. Primitive distractions. Destroy them. Dominion ships fired volleys of plasma across space, obliterating hundreds of the tiny devices. but thousands more remained. And then, every one of them activated simultaneously. Gravity itself seemed to twist. Space rippled. Ships lurched violently off course. Dominion vessels began colliding with each other in confusion. The tactical officer screamed, "Commander, these devices are altering gravitational fields." Impossible. Not impossible, human. The solar system had just become a gigantic gravitational minefield. Ships were being pulled off trajectory, slingshot around planets, and thrown into deadly orbital paths. One Dominion cruiser slammed directly into Mars at several kilometers per second. Another spun uncontrollably into Jupiter's crushing gravity. Commander Varix stared at the chaos in disbelief. They weaponized orbital mechanics. On Earth, General Hale quietly watched the carnage unfold. A young officer whispered in awe, "Sir, we're beating them." Hale shook his head slowly. "No." Smoke curled from his cigarette. "We're confusing them." The officer looked puzzled. "Isn't that the same thing?" Hale stared at the star-filled screen. "Kid, when the enemy starts asking, what the hell are they doing? That's when you're winning." And across the galaxy, the Council finally began updating humanity's file. Threat classification, minor. Status, incorrect. New classification pending. Because one horrifying possibility had begun forming in every strategist's mind. Humanity wasn't just dangerous. They were unpredictable. And in war, that was far worse. Humans don't just fight, they escalate. The Dominion War Armada reeled in confusion. Ships spun wildly, tugged by invisible gravitational tides. Fighters were hurled into the void. Systems overloaded trying to compensate for sudden stress on their frames. Entire battle formations collapsed within minutes, their once perfect choreography reduced to chaotic collisions. Supreme Commander Varix clenched his claws, the weight of centuries of confidence crushing down on him. "Report," he barked, voice echoing through the bridge. "Commander, we cannot target them," said the tactical officer, voice trembling. "They are everywhere and nowhere. They've turned the inner planets into moving obstacles, and their orbital devices, they predict our moves before we can execute them." Varix's scaled forehead creased. "Impossible. No pre-spacefaring species can calculate orbital mechanics with this precision." "They are not pre-spacefaring," whispered Clythar, who had secretly boarded the Dominion flagship as an observer. "They just disguise it well. Their technology is adaptive." Across the solar system, humanity executed its next move with cold precision. Mass drivers, repurposed mining lasers, and railguns fired simultaneously from every orbital platform. Freight ships, armed with improvised weapons, moved in perfect formations. Every city became a command hub. Every factory a weapons plant. Civilian satellites were converted into defensive turret. Varix realized too late that the humans weren't just defending, they were learning. Every Dominion tactic met an immediate countermeasure. Every new attack was recorded, analyzed, and neutralized in real time. On Earth, General Marcus Hale walked through a makeshift command hall beneath the Rocky Mountains. The place smelled of scorched metal, coffee, and tension. Young officers tapped furiously at terminals. Engineers adjusted trajectory algorithms on massive displays. Hale paused at a screen showing a Dominion battleship trapped in Jupiter's gravity well, its hull screaming under tidal forces. He took a long drag from his cigarette, exhaling slowly. A lieutenant approached, hesitant. "Sir, we could finish them now. One coordinated strike, and the fleet will be annihilated completely." Hale shook his head. "No. Let them see it first. Let them understand that underestimating humans is expensive." The lieutenant frowned. "Are you sure?" Hale smiled faintly, a grim, humorless grin. "Positive. If they're going to learn fear, let it be the hard way." Meanwhile, Clythar's mind raced. He had studied young civilizations for centuries. Most panicked. Most died. A few survived by hiding or fleeing. Humanity thrived in chaos. The humans, they're not just fighting a war, Clythar muttered under his breath. They're teaching physics to the galaxy with blood and fire. And then the galaxy got a glimpse of humanity's most terrifying talent, improvisation. Dominion fighters attempted a coordinated strike on Venus. 10 squadrons charged in formation, expecting easy kills. Venus exploded, not with human firepower, but because its atmospheric defense platforms had detonated precision nuclear charges, creating temporary shock waves and electromagnetic pulses. The squadron shattered into molten debris, ships tumbling helplessly toward the sun. Another fleet, attempting to flank Earth through the asteroid belt, was intercepted by what humans laughingly called space lawnmowers, reprogrammed mining drones sending spinning, razor-sharp asteroid fragments at relativistic speeds. Varix screamed into the comms. "Stop them! Destroy every launch site!" Impossible. Earth's launch platforms were constantly moving. Each city functioned as a weapons hub. Every citizen, from retired engineers to students, contributed to the defensive network. Humans were everywhere at once, a living, breathing system of improvisation. Clythar's report to the Galactic Council read like a horror story. The humans do not fight battles. They redefine them. They weaponize their environment, adapt instantly to threats, and escalate beyond conventional comprehension. Conventional warfare against humans is suicidal. I recommend no species attempt it without catastrophic risk. In the Dominion flagship, Varix's tail lashed across the floor. "This is war by physics," he hissed. "They are turning the solar system itself into a weapon." And he wasn't wrong. Saturn's rings became a web of traplines, magnetic pulses pulling and crushing ships at random. Mercury was rigged with orbital railguns, turning the planet into a kinetic artillery platform. Every natural feature of the solar system had been exploited, weaponized, or adapted into human defense. The Dominion fleet had no advantage. Every approach, every tactic, every expectation had been anticipated. And still humans were holding back. They weren't even angry yet. On Earth, Hale lit another cigarette. He watched the Dominion ships spin helplessly through gravity traps, collisions, and human-made hazard. A communications officer approached, voice low. "Sir, the aliens, they're trying to negotiate." Hale raised an eyebrow. "Negotiation? After what they've done? They're offering withdrawal if humanity surrenders some technology and stops attacking." Hale laughed, a low, sharp sound. "Withdrawal." He flicked ash into a tray. "Kid, if they wanted withdrawal, they shouldn't have brought fleet. Now they'll learn how humans play." He turned to the officers monitoring orbital defenses. "Prepare the next phase." One of the engineers looked puzzled. "Next phase? Sir, they already think we're gods or monsters out here." Hale shrugged. "Good. Let them think that. Fear is free and confusion is priceless." The room fell silent. All around Earth, millions of human eyes watched, worked, and waited. And somewhere in deep space, the Dominion commander realized that minor threat had been reclassified. Not minor. Not dangerous. Not even predictable. Catastrophic. Uncontrollable. Human. Humanity's final lesson. The Dominion fleet was in full-scale chaos. Ships spun uncontrollably through the solar system, battered by gravitational traps, orbital railguns, and kinetic projectiles. Thousands of fighters had already been obliterated, yet Supreme Commander Varix refused to surrender. "We still have numbers," he hissed, tail lashing. "We can overwhelm them." His officers looked doubtful. "Commander, the humans predict our moves before we make them. Every maneuver we attempt is countered instantly." Varix growled, but he knew the truth. The humans were not merely reacting. They were orchestrating the battle as if the entire solar system were a single weapon. On Earth, General Marcus Hale lit his final cigarette for the day, walking slowly past banks of consoles in the underground command hub. "You ready?" he asked his staff. A young officer glanced nervously at a display showing the Dominion flagship caught between Jupiter's gravity well and a web of magnetic trap. Sir, we could end this completely. All at once. Hale's eyes narrowed. Kid, sometimes victory isn't about wiping them out immediately. It's about teaching them a lesson. Another engineer spoke up. Sir, the fleet can't survive another phase. They're trapped. Good. Hale exhaled smoke. Let's begin. The humans' final move was almost too elegant to be believed. They had prepared a fleet not for brute force, but for psychological escalation. Orbital satellites, converted cargo ships, mining platforms, and civilian spacecraft moved in intricate formations, coordinated like the pieces of a living machine. Then the humans struck, but not at the ship. They struck at the command structure itself. Hale activated a hidden network of satellites broadcasting a simulated Dominion communication channel. Orders, false intelligence, and conflicting tactical data were sent directly into the Dominion systems. Ships began firing on each other. Formation lines disintegrated. Flags of authority were ignored as chaos spread faster than any human weapon could travel. Varric screamed into the comms. What is this? Stop them. Every response was intercepted, every command neutralized. The Dominion officers had no idea which orders were real. Their fleets disintegrated under the combined weight of physics and deception. By the time the dust settled, the Dominion war armada was a wreck. Hundreds of vessels destroyed. Thousands more drifting, crippled, or lost. Not a single Dominion ship remained capable of organized attack. The once mighty fleet that had planned to enslave a minor planet was now a ghost in the void. On Earth, Hale surveyed the aftermath. Sensors detected nothing, no fleeing ships, no counterattacks. Just silence, broken only by the hum of orbital generators and distant alarms from scattered debris. A junior officer broke the silence. Sir, we've won. Hale shook his head. We've survived. That's all anyone should ever assume at first. Winning is easy if the other side is stupid enough to attack. He exhaled slowly. But make no mistake, the galaxy will remember this. Indeed they did. Observer Clythar's final report to the Galactic Council was brief but terrifying. Humanity is not a minor threat. Humanity is not a predictable threat. Humanity is a civilization that redefines the rules of engagement, weaponizes every resource, and escalates conflict beyond comprehension. They are uncontrollable. The Council's attempts to reassess humanity were slow, cautious, and tense. Entire departments debated the proper classification for weak. Some even whispered in panic about whether the galaxy could survive if humans ever decided to expand. Meanwhile, on Earth, life went on. Celebrations erupted in cities, but not all humans cheered. Families mourned those lost in the chaos. Soldiers cleaned their weapons. Engineers repaired orbital platforms. And General Hale walked through his command center, cigarette in hand, already planning the next phase. Because for humans, victory wasn't the point. Mastery, improvisation, and survival were. The Dominion Empire would rebuild, of course. Fleets would be reforged, alliances formed, and vengeance plotted. But one lesson was etched in the stars. Never, ever classify humanity as a minor threat. Not now. Not ever. And somewhere deep in the void, a Dominion commander whispered as he drifted among the ruins of his fleet. They are monsters who laugh while fighting physics. The galaxy would soon discover that humans weren't just dangerous, they were the reckoning itself. End of story.